All right, we want to get started. It's probably 3:30 and we want to respect your time. We really appreciate, cannot tell you enough how important this is for students on what is for them a very major presentation to get good feedback, and good feedback includes some quantity of feedback, not just one or two people's input, but several people. Katie's going to be doing something today that's new for us. It's a fairly new thing for honors students who have traditionally done honors presentations, and CIS students have done senior project presentations, but it's a new thing for them to be combined. And that's not just with the CIS department. There are opportunities now for honors students to take 4 honors credit courses in their own discipline. And so this is a new thing. So Katie's going to present 2 pieces to us today. There will be a break, and she'll announce that, and when the break comes, there's some snacks on the table towards the back by the window. Maybe you'll say something about that when it's time. And she'll tell us when we take our break. We've asked everybody if you would please, in your assistance with this, the evaluation, you all help evaluate the presentation part, like could you hear her, etc. Did she make eye contact, and those sorts of things. Then Mrs. Todd and I we will grade the actual content of the project and the paperwork that she has to turn in. There's actually a copy of it, I believe, that's being passed around. And as you finish it at one table, pass it to another table if you would like to flip through and see the kinds of things that are included in a presentation. If you have any questions, there'll be a time for Q&A with Katie. If you have any questions after it's all over for Michelle or me about the way the projects are handled in general or the process or something, we'd be glad to tell you about that. But we just are so grateful for your being willing to take a bit of time out of your day to come help Katie get some feedback on her presentation. So Katie, we look forward to what you have to share today.
Thank you all for being here today. I'm very honored that you decided to spend your next few minutes with me. We're going to start off with about a 15 to 20 minute presentation over what's in that technical document that I wrote for the Computer Information Systems Department, and then a 10-15 minute Q&A session after that. We can take a break. There's some cookies in the back that are my personal favorites. Thank you, Fresh Ideas. And then after that, I will resume my presentation with the honors portion, which is a more theoretical paper / research paper on the usage of APIs in the Internet of Things and a biblical perspective on that as well. So if you need to step out after that, you're welcome to. But without further ado, I'm going to start on the first part of this presentation. So my project for CIS and for honors was to create an interactive web map of the Hannibal-LaGrange University campus. In this technical document, you'll find the purpose, goals, acknowledgments that I'd like to make, and also how to activate this project, the organization that I used, how to modify this project. So when I turn this over, I was working in collaboration with the HLGU marketing department. When I turn this over to them, they'll be able to modify it as they need in the future. And then I'll have a short demonstration of that. And then following will be the Census Plenary, which is the honors program research presentation as well. So the purpose of this project was to create an interactive web map of the Hannibal-LaGrange University campus to provide a more engaging experience for prospective students and their families. I was 6 hours away at my home, and I didn't come here except for once to see the campus. And so sometimes you just want to get a better feel for it. And then that's what this is kind of designed for, is to give prospective students and their families a more interactive experience with that. This resource will accompany or succeed current resources available. You'll find online on the HLGU website a map that's kind of like a flat, I believe it's a PNG file. And those are what we put in visiting students' folders on like admissions days and such. And so they'll also have that, as well as, hopefully, if marketing decides to use this, they'll have this project as well that they can use as an online resource. The goals of this project were to create a professional product for HLGU marketing, create a more engaging virtual experience for prospective students and their families, coordinate with a student from another department, that's Faith Parapope, she's in the art department, Become proficient in JavaScript, which is a computer coding language. Become knowledgeable in implementing Google Cloud Platform. Specifically, I use the Maps JavaScript API. We'll discuss that a bit more later. Some acknowledgements I'd like to make. First of all, I want to thank the Lord for giving me the ability to continue learning and growing in my chosen career fields. That's computer information systems with Dr. Todd and Dr. Nelson. Dr. Todd, Dr. Nelson, and Dr. Mullen for their support of facilitation of the senior project and research courses. Mr. Chris Yingling, Ms. Rebecca Sneed, and Dr. Ray Carty for their enthusiastic efforts in HLGU marketing to encourage and enable my vision for this project. Faith for her steadfast collaboration and incredible artwork with this project. Will Brantley and Cam Tracy. Some of you may remember Will Brantley, most of you probably do, our Vice President of Enrollment Management and Marketing. He was able to contact his friend Cam Tracy for this code, which I was able to borrow from them. Cam Tracy works at Union University, and so they have a web map that is very similar to this one, and he helped me implement this a little bit. And also, Abaya Carlson and Savannah Miller for their commitment to the project's photography. They went around and helped me take pictures and set up some of the scenes and stuff. So first of all in the document is how to access this. You can view it and download it. So to view it, you can go online right now if you want to https://kfu.cishlgu.com. It's viewable on your smartphone or on a desktop computer, however you reach the internet. And this is what you would run into on a desktop. This is the map this graphic is what Faith Barrowflow designed, as well as those marker images, so like the yellows and the oranges and the blues, as well as those menu icons. So Faith, would you care to say anything else about how you created these?
Should I stop? Okay. So I created all of this in Illustrator in vector artwork, so that'll be more visible the further and closer you get to it, as opposed to the JPEG version we had on our original website. And then we saved it as SVGs to make it easier for her to program into the website. That's basically all I did. Yeah.
All she did. She's being very humble. Faith was really awesome in this project, and I definitely couldn't have done any of this without her. So most of it's and then I also uploaded this code to a website called GitHub, which is what developers typically use. And this is so marketing department can download this code. You can also download this code if you'd like in a zip file and have it running on your own local machine. And to do that, you can go to github.com/kfu/HLGU-map. Next in the document, I talk about how to activate the project. We discuss application programming interfaces and the Google Cloud Platform. So an API, application programming interface, is an interface to an external service. This is how you request a service and get it back. For more information on how electrical outlets and waiters tie into this, stick around for the honors portion of this presentation, and I will discuss that. But I used the Maps JavaScript API, which uses the Google Maps platform. So most of you, if you have a smartphone, you'll have the Google Maps application on your phone. You know, you're familiar with it. You can pan around it, zoom in, zoom out, find locations, information about the locations, such as reviews, directions to get there, pull up pictures of that location. And so it's very familiar to a lot of users. And Google Maps platform puts out this application programming interface so that developers can utilize their resources. And we would enable it on the Google Cloud Platform website. There are so many different APIs with Google Cloud Platform, with Google Maps platform, including places and routes and how to navigate. But right now I use the Maps JavaScript API. So there are 4 components to the Google Cloud Platform in order to set this up. First, you create a Google account. HLGU Marketing already had a Google account. Created a cloud project on that account. Have to link a billing account to that. It's something to the tune of 0.07 cents or something per every time you refresh or look at the page. That's called an API call or request. And that sends a call or request to the Google Maps platform, and they send you back that service that they're returning to. And then once you do that, you'll get an API key, which is this long string of letters and numbers highlighted in blue here. And That string of code is found in the index.html page. And I've already done this for HLGU marketing, so it's tied to their Google account right now. Next, in the paper, I talk about organization of the project. So on the left, you can see a full view of all of the folders that are in it. I won't bore you too much with it because everyone knows how folders work usually on a computer, but we'll look at some of the more important ones as we go along. First, for the markers subdirectory, which is in the icons, which is in the images. A lot of it is down to a lot of different folders. The markers subdirectory contains 6 graphics, a 360 views, an academics and offices, athletics, SVG, food and dining, points of interest, and residence halls. Each graphic there corresponds to its respective category as found in the index.js file. And like Faith was saying earlier, these are scalable vector graphics, SVGs, and so you can see this is the Burt Administration Building. The blue icon, the blue marker, is a little bit larger than the one next to it, which is public safety. And that is because it has focus. I've clicked on it in that screenshot to emphasize that that's the location you're looking at. And it scales to size, so it doesn't look terrible when it gets bigger. It maintains the same dimensions and everything as it scales. In the index.js file that is located in the HLGU map data.icons object, and you can change out those SVGs as need be. The menu subdirectory contains 7 graphics. First, the home, which is the little house that you see next to the menu. Sprite 360, Sprite Academic, so on and so forth. These sprites are measured 120 pixels wide by 60 high with 5 pixels of padding. So if you look at this image here, if you were to vertically bisect it up and down, you would have a 60 pixel squared here and a 60 pixel squared here with 5 pixels of padding. And if you look up to the menu, you'll see those images on a colored square, except for the star at the top. That's because I've clicked it. And so that disables all of the markers that are points of interest and shows you only the other ones. And so if you look at the bottom left-hand image, that's actually a white star, and right next to it is a gray star. And that's something that happens in the code that changes it from white to gray. So right now you see a white arch for academics and offices, but if you click that, it would turn gray and the background would be white. And those can be altered in the gmap.css file, which is found in the stylus folder. Next, for locations, the location subdirectory contains 5 category subdirectories, so one for each of our categories, plus a turtle just for fun. So in academics and offices, we have 4 locations there that are filed into that category. Each category subdirectory contains location subdirectories. Each location subdirectory contains the photos that you'll add there. So we have 3 photos right now, add an exterior 1, add an exterior 2, so on and so forth. .jpeg. And these photos are added to the marker object in index.js. And you see the blue highlighted portion there. It does need to be the exact file name that you've typed there, and it needs to be that file path, or else you will not end up with the image that you're wanting. And then for scripts, the index.js JavaScript, index.javascript file has the HLGU map data object, which can be modified with the following parameters: location and zoom. Those are the more important ones. Location is found on lines 31 through 32, and that uses latitude and longitude coordinates, which if you go to Google Maps and you were to right-click, or maybe a long hold if you're on mobile or something, you would pull up the latitude and longitude coordinates for whichever point that you're pointed at, and you can copy those and put them into those lines for moving the map default setting to view that point. And so when I copied this code from Union's active project, it was, surprise, surprise, in Jackson, Tennessee. And you're not looking for Jackson, Tennessee, we're looking for Hannibal. And so I copied our coordinates and put them there. And also the zoom level is set to 17. On a mobile device, you can pinch and zoom, or if you're on desktop, you can use the plus and minus sign to change that. The default is set to level 17. And then on the index.html page, this is the web page that you're viewing. It's the only web page, and it's dynamic according to how you're interacting with the web page. You can change the description, keywords, title, and the social media presentation. That's what this last image is, social media presentation. So for instance, You can change the title and description, the URL, which would need to be changed. If you were trying to do this right now, it would need to be, instead of HLGU about HLGU map, it would be kq.cis.HLGU, say this. And the Twitter card is used for, if you drop that URL into Twitter or something, it would pull up the extra little card that Twitter does. Next in the document is how to modify this. So I go over what software you need, how to modify the map overlay, logos, menu icons, and markers. Software to modify the project, 4 programs are required. A text editor to edit the code files, a web browser to view the project, an SVG editor to resize the SVGs, and a photo editor. I used Visual Studio Code as a text editor, Chrome as a web browser. I used Inkscape, which is a free SVG editor. Faith, I believe you said you used Adobe Illustrator. Is that correct? Probably a bit more advanced. And then photo editor to edit any photos would be, I just used the generic Microsoft Windows one. So to adjust the map overlay, which is that green image that Faith so wonderfully created that appears over the tan background of just regular Google Maps, which you normally see, which colors our campus and lets you see a bit more of the surroundings. You can alter the boundaries of that image, of that overlay, by adjusting the code on lines 1236 to 1237. And to change the overlay graphic entirely, you go to line 1241 and change that image. 3 logos are used in the project, the official HLGU logos. First, the arch, which is used as like the little favicon on the URL in your web browser. Like right next to the URL, you'll see an arch if you pull up the HLGU website. The HLGU logo on the menu, on the side menu, and the seal, which you see when you click on a point of interest and it takes you to information about that. And those can be adjusted in the index.html page and the CSS, gmap.css. We talked a bit about the menu icons and how they change, but this is the view from Inkscape on how to change the width and height to the correct specifications. To add markers, an example entry may be found on lines 88 to 105 of index.js. This text appears green in Visual Studio Code because it's commented out. There are multiple ways to comment out code, depending on which type of file you're in right now. To add, modify, and remove markers in photos, you would be taking that text that I had there, that example, copying it and pasting it where you want it in the code. There are a list of the markers right now, and it starts with Fletcher and it ends with Roland Library. It goes north to south, and so you would pick out where you would want it to appear between, depending on which building you're putting on the map, and pasting it right there. You would find the location coordinates on Google Maps, which is what this screenshot shows. At the top of there, on the context menu, you can see. It's a long string of numbers. I deleted it down to the 6th digit from the right, from the left, after the decimal. And then fill in all the data that you need. All of this information is in the technical document. And ta-da, you have a new marker. So now we will move on to a live demonstration of the website. This is what it looks like on the desktop version. You can also find this website through your mobile device or anything that's connected to the internet through this URL. And if I zoom out, you can see where the graphic is overlaid on top of Google Maps. And you see the vector images scaling to size according to how zoomed in or zoomed out you are. And if you were to click on a point, let's say I click on Carroll Science Center, it brings up that side menu with a description that Mr. Christine Ling has written for us, and a photo, or maybe multiple photos depending. I could exit out of it, and let's say I want to look at Lewis and Brown. I can go to Residence Life, Lewis and Brown Hall, and there are multiple photos available for that. So I can scroll through each of them and find some more information about Lewis and Brown. So that's it for this part. Are there any questions I can answer about the project so far?
How many hours did you spend on this project?
So CIS for taking a 1-credit class required 40 hours on this project. I worked a total of 70 because it was crossed with honors project as well. And so I did a little extra work on there and made it as functional as can be now.
Katie, you said that you've used some code from Union University. Good code writers always use what's been created and not reinvent the wheel. How long do you think it would have taken you, or could you have done it without that code to start with?
Good question. Yeah, so they used the Maps JavaScript API just like I did because I used their code. But a lot of that documentation is found online under Google's developer website. So they've made that available because they are the API developer and they want you to be able to use that. They share all of the information on how to implement this. It is technical writing, so sometimes it's not as easy to understand as it can be. But a lot of that was found on there, so I could have found that there, or Union also did some extra things, so like this search bar, you're able to search for a location and find that. Actually, I think they added the entire menu as well, so it probably would have taken quite a while.
And for those who don't know, because we have several people who are not programmers or CIS majors, explain briefly what an API is.
An API is a service interface, so it interfaces between the user who's requesting a service. So like, let's say I'm requesting the Google Maps functionality that I want in here. And I have an API there with the API key that I put in the index.html. And I send that request, when I refresh the page, I send that request to Google Maps, and they, through the API, and then they process it and return it through the API again back to me with the information that I requested.
So it's some rules and structure to the sending and receiving of code and processing.
A little bit. It's the go-between. So I'll talk about that a little more in the next part of the presentation too. Let's say you're at a restaurant and you're looking over the menu and you're hungry and you want, what do you want to eat?
Pizza.
Pizza. And you say, waiter, I would like some pizza. The waiter is your API. You are the user requesting pizza. The waiter takes your request, sends it to the kitchen cooks the pizza for you, they're the developer, and they send it back to you through the API, through the waiter. And that's how you have the pizza delivered to you.
So you mentioned that you have not been able to visit campus much, before coming here. And so what, again, as you were working on this, what did you envision for students who maybe have mostly done their, work through admissions and stuff with us on Zoom, and so maybe they haven't had a chance to travel to see the campus? So what was your thoughts on how this could benefit them?
Yeah, I thought it would just be a good central location to find extra pictures and extra information that you can find on the website, but this is, again, interactive. It's responsive to how you're controlling it, and that's kind of what this generation likes, is they want things at their own fingertips, at their own pace, so you can scroll around however you want and take as long as you want. There are a lot of videos online on our website that do a great job of showcasing the campus as well, but you can pause and unpause those to get the looks you want. But here, you're able to have it completely under your control.
I have another one.
Stop.
Did somebody else have a question? We encourage your questions at this point, by the way. You worked with multiple offices. That's not always the case for our students. Sometimes they're totally independent. Can you speak a little to what it was like to work with so many different components?
That was probably pretty new to me, working with different areas. I worked with Faith, who's in the art department, and the marketing department. And so all of us working together to create this product took a lot of communication, a lot of emails, a lot of meetings in person. Dropping by the office, I would drop by Mr. Chris's office sometimes, and he'd be great to answer any questions I had and get back to me on when he would have the descriptions ready. Faith was so diligent in creating the graphics on time, and I'm really appreciative of all of the effort that went into this project.
Is this type of senior project beneficial to, like, you had to be in charge of it yourself? Is that something all majors should have to do?
I think it's pretty good. Yeah. I remember a communications student, Grant Gephardt, had to, for his senior project, create, this was a couple years ago, maybe last year even, 2 years ago, create a Star Wars trivia night, which I was a part of and won. But he did all of his marketing for it, advertisement, filming, making sure PR was there, like the communications PR, and he even DJ'd it. And so just being in charge of your own project, taking control of something that you can produce and be helpful for that. It was giving a good environment for students on campus, as well as it was like a food pantry drive, so everyone had to donate 2 cans for their food pantry at his senior project. This one is for HLGU marketing.
Katie, what was the most stressful or difficult part of this whole project?
Probably just the communication and collaboration with other people. And I'm a late night person, so a lot of the time I'll get my work done late at night, whereas some people might get it done in the morning or on a different day or something like that. So having to communicate when things would move along was just more difficult than some other things of the project. Okay.
What's something you learned about yourself working all these many, many hours?
Learned I was dedicated. I spent a lot of time trying to find something cool that Union University does is on their map they have 360 views, which enable you to, I don't know if you've ever seen them on YouTube or Facebook or something like that, where you can like click and drag around and see the entire environment. And I tried really hard to get that going for this project, and unfortunately was unable to, but spent a lot of time working on that. And I was probably too dedicated to that and spent a long couple of nights working on the paper right before it was due.
So after this experience, do you want to become a professional map maker? Or is this the last map you're ever going to make?
Oh, I don't know. I might hand draw some occasionally.
Anyone else?
There?
So you said that you were working on like having like where you could interact with it, like the whole environment. Do you think you could, or that could be like added to it in the future at some point?
Yeah, good point. I have included a lot of that in the technical document. So because I borrowed the code from Union and they were able to make it work, a lot of the 360 code is still implemented in the code that I have here. I just wasn't able to figure out, I think they used another API, but I can't find which API. Unfortunately, as a coder, you want to make sure that you're commenting your code appropriately and making sure that the people behind you who are going to deal with the code know exactly which pieces do what. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any comments about that in the code. But the implementation could still be a future on the horizon. Wait.
Did you put sufficient comments in your code?
I made a technical one.
Well, firstly, I just want to say, Katie, you've done an incredible job working with our office, working at the other departments on campus. You've been a consummate professional, absolutely wonderful. We're so excited to use this, but I will accompany the praise with a question. We set out with our goal to make this something that when it's handed off to marketing department for whatever we want to use it for, admissions, et cetera, that someone with limited knowledge of coding would be able to hopefully still be able to interact with this and adjust it and change it as needed in the future. Do you believe that that we set out with that goal? Do you believe that with our finished product here that this is going to be something that accomplishes that?
I do believe that, yes, sir. I put a good amount of work into the technical document, which is fancy lingo for a user manual that you would see like with a DVD player or something, but it's probably a little more user-friendly than a lot of the ones you'll get from, say, China or something. If you can read it a bit better, hopefully. I'm also an English major too with Miss Henry, and so writing language that's effective was also a key element of this.
Do you have plans to go over the technical manual with the marketing team?
If they so desire.
That might be a
Have y'all
fit.
gotten a chance to look at it? I know there are a few copies floating around. There should be 3 total. I'm not sure if Dr. Muller brought
I
them.
brought mine.
And I can print one out for you and email you one as well.
Anyone else? How long do you want us to take our mini break?
How about 5 minutes?
5 minutes, and then you'll conclude with the second piece of the presentation, right?
Yes.
All right.
Honors Department has funded cookies and drinks, so please eat up.
And if any of y'all need to leave, feel free to do so, but take a cookie on the way out. Thank you for your time.